Hello everybody, this is Bench85. Welcome back to another episode of You Play KSP Reboot. Last episode we played around with some lifters. Today I want to use it mostly because, well, it seems that our Moho and our Duna satellites have lost communications home. And we need to get some sort of a relay station up. The only issue is I don't know how well this is gonna fly. So, we're gonna try something here. Because of my concern for how it may fly, I am going to keep you guys with me. Try to do it that way. I think we're just gonna go orbital like so. The problem is I don't have a fairing big enough to hold these 3 satellites that I have here, so we're just gonna have to see what happens. This is our heavy lifter, of course. Oop. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, launch. Man, that's got some nice lift off. So I don't know what this is going to do in the atmosphere. We're going to find out together. That's why this is totally in live format. No speeding up right now. I will speed it up further on in the mission if we actually make it where we need to go here. Okay so far. Picking up some speed. We're also picking up some delta V, which is good. Thrust is looking good. Where's the torque? I don't know what half that stuff is, and I really should be paying attention to what I'm doing here. So we're at 6,000 meters. Or 6,000, yeah, 6,000 meters. 7,000. 8,000. I want to get a little bit of a gravity turn going here. Not a whole lot. I have some fins for stability here in the atmosphere. Problem is, if I push it too far off, that satellites will break the surface, or the wind, basically. And all of a sudden, we are going to flip out of control. So we're looking good. Our apoapsis is looking good. This is an interesting launch it's going to be. A little bit of a different of a profile than what we normally launch. So those launched away nicely. I'm going to push the apoapsis up to, I think, roughly about maybe 100 kilometers. We're burning sideways here, getting our periapsis down. So actually it launched really well. This is actually the first official launch for this test platform, for this lifter. I have a second one building. If I go under Kerbal Construction here, there is a second one building right now. So if we need it, and we want to do some more satellites into here, depending on how this performs. Oh, we pushed to 100,000. So I'm going to cut engines here. We're going to coast up. But it'll at least give us the ability to launch a second set if need be. We've got this center stack still. We've got over half a tank full. And we have this stack, or this section here as well. So, let's see here. We're about a minute up. So, I'm going to start speeding up the video here. And the rest of it is going to be old me. No, new me. Whichever you want to call it. I would say it was new me. I mean, old me is the old version that seems to be playing the game at the same time as talking, and, well, new me seems to know more than old me. Like how this might mess up at some point. But anyways, we are taking this satellite pack, if that's what you want to call it, up to a orbit of 2863, I want to say. I don't know, we'll find out when we get there. But that is what is considered geostationary or Kerbal stationary orbit, not geostationary like we use, because, well, that's a an Earth-based term, I would say. No different than solar, because obviously our sun in our solar system is known as Sol, so everything's solar. So this is, I don't know what you'd call it. Sunner, stellar, maybe. I don't know. But anyways, I'm waiting here for the right time, and I'm gonna burn my way up to there. Now, the idea of a geostationary satellite is not necessary in the normal stock game, because I'm using this for communications. Obviously, that's why it's a CommSat pack. Normally, there are numerous satellite stations located on the surface that you can communicate with. So chances are, as Kerbin rotates around its axis, you will have many opportunities to connect to different base stations. Not in my save, because you're actually going to be only connecting with KSC, or Kerbal Space Center. So you can see here I'm getting up to the top of the orbit, and what I'm looking for here, and what I added into Flight Engineer over there, is my orbital period. That's the important number. Yep, 2863. How about that? I did remember what it was. I actually didn't look it up when I had to go through this. I was pretty sure I knew what it was. So now we're actually going to gear it into a 4-hour orbit. The reason being that the orbital period of Kerbin is 6 hours. All right, and we'll go over this a little bit more a little bit later on in the episode here. But unlike our planet here, Earth, where it's a 24-hour period, Kerbin is 6 hours. So we're going into a 4-hour period. The reason being, as I set the first satellite here, to make satellite deployment easy, you launch up to your desired orbit. You then set your orbit period, your orbital period, to a fraction of what your desired orbital period would be. So in this case, I have 3 satellites, and I'm in a 6-hour period. So I want to go 2/3, so you go from 3 down to 2, because you have 3 satellites. You want to go 2/3 of the orbit, so you hit in a cycle every time you come around. So we set our first satellite. You can see here the satellite orbit's above. We're going to swing down. It's only going to take us 4 hours to get around, and the other one's taking 6 hours. So when we hit the top, the apoapsis here, we are going to be 2 hours ahead of it. So you release the next one, and then you accidentally release the next one. It's a bit of a staging error. That's why I knew something was going to go wrong. But it's okay, we can fix it. So we're going to set the second satellite to the orbit that we want to get, which doesn't take too long. And it actually should be just under 6 hours. If you don't want them to stray away from the point on Kerbin that it's hovering over, or orbiting over the top of, you want it just below, I want to say it's 5 hours, 59 minutes, and like 14 seconds or 9 seconds, somewhere in there. As long as you're like 5 hours, 59 minutes, you're pretty close. And actually, as long as all the satellites have the same orbital period, they are not going to drift on you at all. So I'm going to deorbit this stage because we don't need it anymore, and we're going to go to the last satellite. Remember I said I could fix it? Well, guess what? This stage is still in that 4-hour period. So we can ride it back up, find our apoapsis, and set this one where we need it to be. And just like that, we have 3 satellites in a 6-hour period, 2 hours apart from each other, that will not drift anymore. Pretty cool, right? That was the whole goal of this. So we're always going to have one satellite that's pretty much over the top of KSC that can then communicate with any of the other 2 satellites. And those 2 satellites, or actually all 3 of them, will have the ability to communicate anywhere out into the solar system, hopefully. Although I have a feeling the satellites I have up there with the relays that they have, the relay antennas, and I love watching these go around and around. This is my favorite part about ComSat setups. I think these are only going to reach out to maybe Duna, maybe down into Moho. We're not going to get out to Jupiter, well, not Jupiter, sorry, Joule. So if we want to go out to Joule, we are going to need another relay setup, and we will do that. We will launch a big relay setup. So I'm going to actually launch another polar set. So here we go, guys, into the next one. Alright guys, after a mostly successful launch there, except for my staging accident, I've decided what I want to do here. As you can see, I have moved up the build schedule here. We've got 4 Moon Minmus landers here that are being built, rockets. They're doing it in like 6 days now, 6.5 days, which is pretty darn good. They built a few of them now, so shouldn't be a problem, but basically next episode what we're going to be doing is we're going to be landing a bunch of probes and collecting a bunch of science so that we can research what we need to move on in manned space flight. We have and I'll bring this up, we have the node here, specialized construction, which gives us the Clampotron docking ports, but I really want the smaller ones, which is here. Need 90 science here, so that one should be pretty quick. We're also going to need at some point here like ladders, stuff like that. We got a fuel canister here for EVA propellant. Just some small things here and there. And we're also going to start getting what we need for our space station stuff, which I want to start building. But in order to do that, we need to start out with docking, stuff like that. We are also going to need RCS. So another 90 science here. So we're looking at 90 science, 90 science. And then I think we already have an RCS tank of some sort. So I'm not too worried about that. There's a bigger monopropellant RCS tank. So we need some more science basically, and we're not going to collect a whole lot where we are now because we've pushed out into the tree in different areas trying to get to certain things, and unfortunately because of that we have not gotten what we need. I also want to get this guy here, which allows us to start scanning for resources, and I believe oh, here we go. We got discovery science here. We got atmospheric analysis, so it's going to give us some more experiments here. We got an infrared telescope. Give us some more experiments that we can run to produce science. It's also going to give us the ability to start making some of these space station units that will allow us to also create more more science. Is basically what's holding us back. Unfortunately, like I said, the Moho and the Duna satellites are a lost cause. We're not going to be able to do anything with them. We're not going to be able to control them because we didn't have the antennas to get the range that we needed. So it's unfortunate, but we can just send out a new one. And basically, we learn from our mistakes. Oh, this actually requires that, so we are going to have to cruise through here. So we need about maybe 700 to 800 science, which I think we can get pretty quick. But I've actually got on the launch pad here another ComSat set. I want to send another one up just to make sure we have coverage, so we don't get too many bad situations here, especially if we start exploring the poles of the moon or Minmus. I'd like a little bit of height. So I guess to close this episode off here, we are going to do another live launch of the exact same rocket that we just launched, but we are going to go in a little bit different direction. So 3, 2, 1, fire. I almost did not throttle up. That would have been bad. So I think next episode's going to be fun because you aren't going to see many of the launches. What you're going to see is me coming in for the landing. So it's going to be a lot of montage type deal of landings coming in. Hopefully things not going awry. Hopefully we nail all the landings. I haven't decided where I want to land. But it's going to be based mostly on what biomes we need. I am going to send another one to Minmus, simply because we have the ability to get a handful of biomes in one shot, and we're going to launch that one basically whenever I deem that it will line up on the plane, so it's going to cost the least amount to launch. I'm trying to turn this guy away here, and it's not going to cooperate with me because I'm turning against the rocket stages here. It doesn't like doing that. I'm headed north, as you can see. That's my goal here. So the inclination is going to start running on me. I don't know what showed up behind me here, but we need to try to run this inclination all the way up to about 90 degrees. Looks like we got a pretty good apoapsis running. We're going to lose our side stages here pretty quick. Hoping we can get out of the atmosphere here so that we can, there we go. Yeah, they released pretty well. I'm getting a little bit of oscillation, mostly because we're in the upper atmosphere, I think. But this is going to be basically the same type of mission. I'm going to fight against our orbit here, keep bringing that inclination as close to 90 degrees as I can here. It's nice to do it on the launch, simply because it's cheaper. You're firing in multiple directions here. I'm probably going to run the apoapsis up a ways, like I did before. Possibly even higher, actually, now. Probably just going to run it until I can get this inclination fixed. And we're getting there. I mean, we're at 85%, or 85 degrees here. We just need to run it to 90. Our apoapsis is actually not going to make it to 100, is it? Before that turns. It's going to be close. So we got 88. $89. I'm going to start bringing it in right on the 90 here. And boy, is that looking good. I'm going to let her float up now. How about that? 89.76 degrees inclination. You'll see now on our map we're tracking straight up. The reason I didn't want to do this first is obviously I would lose communication and I'd have to keep going around, whereas now it's going to kick in here. And I'm probably going to have to change the names of each of these here as we go along, just to make it easier. We actually don't have a whole lot of burning that we need to do here, where you got a pretty good orbital velocity here. Fire her back up. Don't want to lose my inclination, so I'm going to keep burning here. We're just watching. Just want to get into an orbit. From there we can adjust what needs to be adjusted. We have an apoapsis that's just absolutely climbing. I don't like that. But once we get into orbit here, it's going to be the exact same situation, where we just burn up so we get into a 4-hour period. That looks like it could be... That might be Minimus, actually. Is the moon and Minimus in the same general area here? Yeah, it is. Right there. So we're seeing the moon and Minimus from a distance. That's pretty cool, actually. I have not gotten that kind of a shot very often. You can see here we're starting to go over the pole. There we go. We are in an orbit. 123. That's close enough. We do not have much fuel left in this stage at all. Actually, we might as well at this point run our apoapsis up to or actually it's kerbosynchronous. It's not really geosynchronous. Kerbosynchronous height, like we did last time. I'm still just watching my inclination, trying to keep it as close to 90 as possible. And we'll just run this guy up all the way up to, what should it be? About 2863, I think is what I figured out. Either way, you're mostly just looking for your orbital period, but it's nice to keep them in a relatively circular orbit. Look at those auroras. That's beautiful. The one downside to doing it in this type of a situation, like space stations, things like that, because Kerbin, you're always launching from the equator, which makes it easier for new players, of course. Make sure we don't run past it here. But in real life here, with the International Space Station, things like that, that's pretty close. I can adjust it when we get up there. Look at that. That's beautiful. You get to see that because you're not in a... Actually, we're going to go all the way down to the South Pole, aren't we? We're not in an equatorial orbit when you're dealing with the space station, because in the US here we're launching from above the equator, so it crosses through. And they do that so that it's also ease of launching to it. You put it at a certain inclination, and most of your other countries then that are within a however many degrees of latitude have the ability then to launch to it. Northern Lights dancing. Pretty stuff. The only thing we gotta watch out for here is the nav ball's gonna act funny as we're going over the poles. But this will definitely give us coverage. I've used this pattern before, using remote tech, the old style satellite requirements that we had. Look at that line. Man, that's beautiful. Alright, time to slow down here. Spin it around. So we can speed up here. We're going to get into that 4-hour orbit. I don't want my apoapsis to change too much here. Kind of a balancing beam here. And we do not have a lot of fuel, actually. Oh, we'll have plenty. 350, 351, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Our, yeah, it's close enough. Our apoapsis height is a little high, but it's okay. So let's decouple our first one here. We're going to activate the engine. And we are going to cruise all the way up like we did before. I'm just going to adjust my apoapsis height here. Oh, we are past, so I got to go up. Now we are not past, so now I need to go down. Just playing with the numbers is basically what it is. And some of this you get used to after playing a while. Yeah, now it's gonna go the other way. What I'm doing is I'm just kind of pushing my orbit around, trying to get my apoapsis height from going too high. Oh, looks like we went a little too far. Just by a touch. Get her. Oh, I didn't hit X fast enough. Darn it. Alright, let's spin it around again. I think the ideal time is like 5 hours, 59 minutes, and 9 seconds. That's pretty darn close. What I'm actually going to do, we want to point it up, which is actually going to point it into the planet because we're over the pole, at least for now. Extend everything, and basically we do a repeat of everything we just did all over again. But you guys don't need to see that because you've already seen that. I'm going to shut this off too so I don't have any accidents. So I'm going to, no, not warp here. I want the ship. Why won't you let me grab the ship? So I said when things get wacky. Or am I? Oh, I'm looking at the wrong ship, aren't I? No wonder. But yeah, I'm going to wrap things up here. And I will see you guys in the next episode when we do a bunch of moon landings. I will be excited to do that because those landings are always fun. I love doing those. So thank you all for watching, guys. And as always, take it easy.